In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use a keyer and some masks to bring back our thumb. So here's where we left off, and currently our reflection is cutting off our thumb in a rather obvious manner. So we need to come in and we need to figure out how to extract out our thumb. So I'm just going to Control D duplicate our picture frame here, and let's just place this above our reflection to begin with, and let's solo this layer. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how to include this thumb inside of some sort of alpha channel, as well as cutting out everything else. Now we could, of course, come in and do some rotoscoping, and you can take a look at our Intro to Rotoscoping and Rotoscoping Techniques in After Effects courses if you want to learn more about that, but that would be a quite complex mask, and there's a very large chance of error. So I would really rather do this using some sort of keyer, because we do have a pretty big hue shift going from the green background into our primarily red thumb. So let's come in and let's add in the key light keyer. So let's go to Effect, Keying, and let's drop in Key Light 1.2, or whatever version of key light you have. If you want to learn more about key light, take a look at our keying green screens in After Effects course, which goes over key light in a lot of detail. So let's now grab a screen color, and it's essentially what we want to cut out. Now, you might be thinking, let's cut out this green background, and normally you would be correct. However, we can also use keyers to keep things, and I found that it's much easier if we want an alpha for this thumb here. Let's actually key out our thumb and use that as an alpha channel. So I'm just going to select one of these tones on our thumb here, and you can see it immediately cuts out that thumb. So to see this a little bit easier, let's jump into our alpha channel, and now we can take a look at where our thumb is cut out, which is the black areas, and where it is not, which is the white areas. So now let's come in and jump down to Screen Matte, and you'll notice there's a lot of these little pieces of noise here in the dark areas, and let's come in and let's increase our clip black just a little bit to remove those areas. Now, if you have any noise, such as down here in the white areas, let's come in here and let's reduce our clip white a little bit. Now, we don't want to push either of these too far. We want to be careful with these values because we can quite easily come in and make our key a little bit too strong. Finally, let's come down and let's just give this a little bit of softness, 1 or 2 pixels at most, and that just blurs the screen after it's created. Now, to finish this off, let's come down here and let's invert this alpha channel. Actually, let's see if we can use this alpha channel as it currently is without inverting it. So I'm going to solo my reflection layer as well. I'm going to jump back to my RGB values. And I want to bring back my transfer controls. And for our reflection, let's now try using an inverted alpha, which is down here in my track matte options. Alpha inverted matte. And it looks like that's actually the opposite of what we want, so let's try an alpha matte. And that gives us our reflection with the thumb cut out. So let's unsolo these layers and take a look at this. Okay, so there's a few problems we have. One is our foreground reflection is still getting layered on top of our thumb. Now the other problem we have probably comes later on, in that we can still see our tracker markers from our background footage. Now, if we were lucky, our 3D object would cover it entirely, but as the case is, we need to come in and we need to define a mask. So let's now come down to our picture frame again, and I'm just going to show it just so we can take a look at it. And now let's draw out a mask to remove these markers here. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I'm just going to draw a pretty general mask here. No need for anything fancy. We just want to cut it off. Now you'll notice here that it's essentially doing the opposite of what we want it to do. So let's come down here and hit the M key to see if one of the mask options will fix this. Well, let's try subtract. Nope, that didn't do it because we want to use the subtracted area of our thumb. So will intersect work? Nope. And no matter what option we use down here, none of these will work out for us. So let's set this to none, because we can use this mask actually inside of our keyer to help us out. So if you want to add the keyed area into the alpha channel, scroll down and let's go to the inside mask of our key light effect. And let's say we want to use our mask 1 as an inside mask. And as you can see, the markers will pop back in, and now we can turn this layer off and our reflection is looking great. Now let's double check and make sure we don't have to animate this. So I'm just going to set a keyframe on my mask path just in case. And let's jump to the beginning of our animation. Now you'll notice here our mask is now causing us problems. If we turn this off, we are back to where we started. So we need to animate our mask moving over. So I'm going to grab our selection tool, double click our mask here to get up our transform controls, and let's just move this to the left and click off. Now you might look at this and say, well, that really didn't help much at all, but it actually solved our problem here. The issue is we can still see our foreground reflection. Now as you can see, it looks like our mask is off and it's going to cause us problems, but let's just turn off our picture frame again because we do not need that layer. And as we can see, our thumb is nicely masked out. Let's move to the end of our sequence to make sure this causes no problems, and as you can see, it looks just fine. So we had to do a little bit of rotoscoping there, but this super simple animation would be much easier than going in and trying to match the edge of this hand here. Now let's actually come in and let's decrease the softness of this mask just a little bit, maybe something like 0.5. It was looking a little bit too blurred out there, so reducing that down just sort of brings back some of the sharpness and some of the details that we were losing. Okay, so we still have an error or an issue with our reflection up here, but we can deal with that later on after we sort of come in and begin compositing or creating another alpha for our foreground elements. So let's begin taking a look in the next lesson at how we can create sort of a silhouette effect and fix our reflection error as well by doing some pre-comping and some math operations to a matte. So in this lesson we took a look at how we could use and solve a problem using a key light keyer to create a mask or create a key of our thumb, which we then use to cut out our reflection.